Good morning. Sorry I'm a little late this morning. I guess it's right at 9, so we're probably okay. Good morning, everybody. This is Stacy. We are loving my better, and this is walking in my shoes. Sorry if I'm a little slow this morning getting up and getting motivated. Occasionally I sleep in past when I need to, so it throws my day off. Just wanted to say this has been an interesting week. Some interesting topics, and the If They Love Me, Why has been kind of reflective even to me and eye-opening to me, and I'm very grateful that we chose to do this topic. So it's been great. For anybody who was on Let's Talk last night, we had an amazing time. We started at 7 and ended at 11. So we had just a great time. A lot of talking and learning about each other and our veterans and how to navigate through this, and veteran choices, and the veterans were fabulous about giving us their insight. So I really have to say there's a huge shout out to everybody who was on the call last night. We had the Zoom last night. We had such a good time. Don't forget that this coming Let's Talk on Thursday will be gingerbread making. I'm so excited. We're going to do our little gingerbread houses. If you don't bake, in the words of Sharon, if you're not domesticated, they have kits at Walmart, which is what I'm using. So just putting that out there. What else is great going on today? I'm going to give people just a second to pop on here. If you have not signed up for the newsletter, subscribe to it on the website. It is www.lovingmyveteran.com. Go to the newsletter. There will be all kinds of insight. So coming up next week, I'm so really ready for this one. Monday, we are going to talk about sexuality and intimacy. Really ready for that. There's just so much when it comes to that, and sex and intimacy, and their medications sometimes throw them off, and sometimes they don't want it, and sometimes they want too much, and so we're going to really kind of talk about that, the taboo word, sex and intimacy. So that's going to be on Monday. We're kind of ready for that to happen. Tuesday and Wednesday, we are going to have a really frank and honest discussion about the VA and some of the problems that we collectively are having with the VA, and where that comes into play. So that will also be will be discussed on Tuesday and Wednesday. So let's get into the topic of today. The topic of today is, if they love me, then why does PTSD control everything? And this is a discussion we kind of had last night, and kind of where we were last night in this, does PTSD really control everything? And I go back to Carl and his thing is, some things are relationship and some things are PTSD. And so it doesn't kind of control everything, but it does in a way. Remember, every veteran is different. Everybody's PTSD is different. So that plays a big role in kind of how we play out here. So let's talk about what it controls. We tend to have this moment of explosion, or whatever their PTSD trigger moment is, and we do everything we can at that point not to set them off again. I mean, who wants that trigger and that setting them off? So we kind of walk on these eggshells, like we're careful about, well, do I want to stop and say this because it might trigger something? Or he looks like he's in a place. Do I want to talk to him about that place? And so what happens over time is, we now get where behavior is happening because we don't want to. Good morning, Sonny. We don't want to either, and this stuff is going on, and we don't want to set off these triggers. So we're kind of walking on these little eggshells, and so then behavior becomes expected. And we do this back and forth. We don't expect stuff because we don't want to set it off. And then they don't do stuff because we don't engage in it. So it becomes this cycle about what's PTSD, what's not PTSD. So when we allow this to go on, and allow is such a bad word, when this cycle goes on, and this events go on, it is learned behavior, and it's just something we become comfortable with, and it's just something that we do. So I think this was actually a discussion we kind of had last night. Carla is emphatic about what's relationship and what's PTSD, and there is definitely a difference. But when you have PTSD, which y'all know I have, he has, we all kind of have it, it kind of skews things just a little, and it changes the relationship and how we think, because you don't know, are they in that PTSD moment? Am I in that moment? Is there this and is there that? So we get afraid to engage because we're afraid that we're going to set something off. And when you become afraid to communicate and afraid to engage, the relationship just kind of gets worse, and we get stuck in these bad places and things we don't want to do. So we need to be super careful when it comes to this about differentiating what is a PTSD event and what is a relationship event. So I hear a lot from spouses and partners that say, well, he doesn't do this because, and I don't ask him because of the PTSD. PTSD is kind of always playing in their mind. That movie, that video thing, that's the analogy I use, always kind of plays in the back of their head. It's just kind of going on, and it kind of plays in the back of their head. And then they have triggers and they have moments, and whether they're dates or their events or their noises or something that doesn't suppress that back and lets it come to the forefront, that's when they trigger and they have a moment. And they also cycle, okay? And this is hard to understand, but those of us with hormones, we cycle. And you have your pre and your during and your and it kind of goes through this cycle. You'll find PTSD does that too. Sometimes they'll cycle through. So you just need to be aware of where they are in that, but you can't blame and go forward into your relationship. You can't go forward in this relationship and say, well, I'm not going to have a relationship. We don't have to do this because of PTSD. We don't have to do that because of PTSD. We're not going to do this because of PTSD. And then PTSD controls your life and controls your relationship. So like for Carl, going places, he does much better with the schedule. We have found that most veterans with PTSD do much better with the schedule. If they know we're going to go here and here, they're fine. When you start adding things to the mix, they're not. They have their comfort zone of protection, because most veterans feel like, combat veterans feel like they have to protect, so they have to kind of know what's going on. And when you take them somewhere new, their head is kind of on a swivel and they're kind of disengaged. That is the PTSD side. That being kind of disengaged, their head on a swivel, you're acting like they're not interacting with you. That's because they're going someplace new and they're assessing where they're at. So let's talk about going out somewhere. Dinner, a movie. Movie theaters are very hard. Just putting it out there, movie theaters are very hard. Dark, loud, you don't see the entrances and the exits. Guess what you're doing to them? And their back is always going to be to a door somewhere. So guess what you've done? So that may not be an option, but movie night at your house can be. I know that Carl talked last night about putting an air mattress in a bed and going in the bed of a truck and going to the drive-in, or just riding out and looking at the stars. That makes it a relationship So you do have to worry about PTSD coming into the relationship, but it doesn't control that relationship. I know for us that tomorrow we're going to go to the Christmas parade and the little festival thing. Right? We talked about it yesterday that it was coming up, that I kind of wanted to go. This morning we talked about it again. There's a Christmas parade, there's an Arts and Crafts Festival, and there's going to be fireworks tomorrow night, but we don't have to do the fireworks. So by laying that out, by setting that up, by giving him that, he knows where we're going in a limited amount of space and time, and he's aware. So it's not going to affect us going and doing. Is his head still going to be on a swivel? Yes. Is he going to be comfortable with these people that we're going to go see that he doesn't know? Probably not. But as we go and we do this, he now mentally has time to prepare for this. So our relationship part will be normal-ish. But that's how this works. That's how these cycles work. That's what we go through that works. You know, their comfort zone, their space. We talked about that even last night. We talked about the way they sleep literally establishes some of their comfort. So while your veteran is engaged in maybe playing a video game, I know that last night when Jeremy was on the call, he was playing Grand Theft Auto, and he was still engaging with us, and he was still talking to us, and he was still doing, and he said, I play this and blow people up so I don't kill people in real life. That's what he said to us. And so when you kind of put all that in there, he wasn't having a PTSD moment. By playing his Grand Theft Auto and blowing people up, he wasn't going to have a moment. So we kind of see how this is starting to work. There are relationship things, communication. Communication is a relationship issue. Learning how to communicate with somebody with PTSD is a PTSD issue. So you have to, it's tough, and you find that balance, and everybody is not the same. Remember, you all know when I'm going to go take a class from Sunny, because she says that she doesn't yell and she stays calm and level-headed even when she's stressed out. I want to go take a class from her because I'm the first one to yell, and I raise my voice and I get uptight. And that triggers Carl. And we know that. And even though I know that, there are still moments that I do that. But we are learning to communicate. We are learning to not have explosive moments and communicate with each other. We are learning that process. And it's an evolving process. You know, I said something to him, I said, what have I done now? And he said, you didn't do anything. And I'm like, but you got an attitude. And he says, no, I don't. I'm thinking about a bunch of things. You don't know what's in my head. And I don't. And he doesn't know what's in my head unless we communicate. So making assumptions is tough. Now, are there times that you ask and we don't want to pry too much? But we ask, and when we ask that, sometimes it triggers them or gets them where they're disengaged. Yeah. But you know that's part of their PTSD. But if you always assume that they're going to disengage, then you're never going forward in your relationship. So that's the difference in how we collectively, him and I together collectively, let PTSD control our relationship. Because we don't work through what's PTSD and what's relationship. You don't love somebody and get in the relationship with them and say, oh, I have PTSD, and now all of a sudden we stop having a relationship. When we started dating, we talked, even before we saw each other, we talked on the phone for hours and hours every single day. I'd be at work on the ambulance, and he'd be at work, and because he was just west of us, he would see a storm coming in, and so he would send me the screenshot of the radar and say, baby, be careful, you're going to get wet in an hour. Hey, that was communication. That was relationship. That was looking out for us, for me. Well, that didn't go away. But when we live with the PTSD on a daily basis, we tend to take it away. We tend to stop that because we don't engage, because we're afraid of that explosion. Those explosions are going to happen. Those PTSD moments are going to happen. Those triggers are going to happen. Those days that they disengage are going to happen. And there's nothing we can do about that. Nothing. We can't erase a date. We can't. We can't erase a date. Yee, see, drove to town, met up for an outdoor concert. I'm so proud of that. That is amazing. I talked about that last night. Sorry, I'm a little slow on my scrolling down here. You can't erase a date. You can't erase an event. You can't erase something that triggers them. It doesn't do that. There's not like some magic marker that erases that. But what you can do is you can stop living every single moment of your life like you're in the middle of a PTSD moment. And when we get in the habit of doing that, our whole relationship, our whole life becomes PTSD. Okay? Nobody, and I know, again, y'all are like, oh my God, she's like the veteran advocate person who's blaming us. No, I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming the whole relationship. Because I think that there's times, and he's not where he can hear, so I'm going, and I don't care if he hears or not. I think there's times that they manipulate the PTSD, and they use it to avoid things they don't want to deal with. Okay, because they know that we're not going to push if they say, ooh, I'm in a spot. No, just be honest with me and say, I don't want to talk about that. Don't tell me I'm in a spot, because what happens to us when they say, oh, I'm in a spot? We get this freaked out thing like, oh my God, I got to walk on eggshells all day because I'm going to trigger him. No, there are times I just don't want to talk to you about what's going on in my head. There are times I just need to wrap my head around me. There are times I just need to wrap my head around me. Hey, Danielle. Her and that new baby. That baby is so precious, by the way. I need to give her sugars. There are times that we just want to, I want to wrap my head around me. So it's okay for them to say, I don't want to talk about that. Okay, then don't. But we don't engage that because we're afraid they're going to trigger. So stop. It's okay for him to be in his head. It doesn't mean he's in a PTSD moment. It's okay for him to be thinking. It doesn't mean he's in a moment. It's the way their brains are wired. Accept it. It is. But we allow, collectively, we allow it. And they know. They know that we know what triggers them. So when they say, I'm in my head, or so what do? We're like, oh, okay. Well, you go be in your head, and I'm going to do whatever so I don't trigger you. And what else can I do for you today, baby? And, I will take care of all your responsibilities today because I don't want to trigger you. And you can sit there on the couch and play a video game all day. Well, that was a free pass, huh? But if I learned, we all learned it. We all learned that behavior. We all learned those behaviors, even as kids. Come on, y'all. I knew that if I got sick at school and didn't feel like being there, and I called my Nana to come get me, I knew my Nana was going to make me chocolate pudding. Okay? Well, hello. How many times do you think I got sick at school because I wanted chocolate pudding? Because we allowed that. And then all of a sudden, my mom and dad said, no more chocolate pudding. I was like, what? They told my Nana, if she's so sick, She doesn't need chocolate pudding. And they're like, little Lucas, little Lucas, you know she needs that chocolate pudding. And he says, no, Mama. She's coming to your house pretending she's sick so she can eat chocolate pudding. Pick her up after school and feed her. So if you're allowed to get away with a certain behavior and you know you're going to get a certain outcome time after time after time, we're naturally going to do that. And you're right, it becomes enabling. We can enable. They can manipulate. We can manipulate. They can enable. So where's the PTSD and what's the relationship? Yeah, you got to understand PTSD to make a relationship work. We do. And I think that's where so many spouses and partners fail. Because they don't understand their veterans' PTSD. All of it is not the same. Remember, we went back and we talked about the physical changes in the brain with PTSD. We talked about that. We talked about those physical changes. I took 3 sources. The Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic is a very reputable research hospital. Mayo Clinic. The VA. And I will tell you, no matter what problems you're having with the VA in your local area, and that's a whole nother topic, the VA, combat PTSD, they're the experts on. They can't treat everybody correctly because there's too many funneling through a system too small, but they're the experts in, well, that's all they treat is combat-related PTSD. And the American Journal of Psychiatric Medicine. Those are 3 incredibly reliable sources, and none of the 3 could agree on all the symptoms, causes, and signs of PTSD. So if they can't agree, that shows that it is individual to the person. That is individual to the person. So everybody may have this common thread, but it is individual to the person. It is also individual to the relationship. Because if I could take a class from Sunny and learn to stay calm and not get excited and raise my voice and in Carl's words, have a knee-jerk reaction, oh, our conversations would be 1,000 times better in my house. So I need like a one-on-one with her to learn how to do that. Because that's his trigger. And I know that. But I can't help myself. Danielle's known me a long time. Yeah, I will yell and scream, and she knows that. Because that's just who I am. It's in my nature. I'm just this person who does that. And part of it comes from my career. You know, if we don't, when you're in EMS, you don't have time to say, can you please bring me that backboard? I got this patient who's going to die right here, and if we don't get them out of the car right now, but please bring me a blackboard, and please bring me a C-collar, and please bring me this. So as crisis went on in our lives, as what we were doing, and we were more and more in a crisis mode, we didn't ask nicely. It was, bring me that, I need this, I need that, do this, do it now, and we expected it. So where we're talking about them being programmed a certain way, right? We are too based on our past experiences. You know, I can see Danielle going to her husband now and saying, baby, Glen County, you got the guy hung upside down in the car, and her saying, hey, will one of you firefighters please bring me? Yeah, okay, that's going to happen really well. It doesn't work that way. But that is how her training and becomes instinctive. What we do is, and everybody does it in their own life because things become instinctive to you. What we did in our career that becomes instinctive, we carry home into our relationships. What the veteran did in combat becomes instinctive. And he carries it home into his relationship, or she carries it home into her relationship. So it's instinctive. And you can't get rid of that instinctive. It just happens. But what we can do is we can learn that, and we can learn what the trigger is, and we can learn what the stuff is, and we can work on separating that when we're in a relationship. So that's where I'm going with it. What is PTSD? Yes, there are triggers, there are flares, there are moments, there are cycles, and there are events. They happen. But there's also relationship. And we have to learn what works individually in our relationship. And that comes from communication. And so many times they're going to say stuff like, I don't want to talk about it. And you're like, oh, well, okay. So you want me to be a mind reader. You want me to figure it out on my own. You don't want to talk about it, but you're bringing it into my living room, our living room. That's a big thing for Carl. I say that all the time. You're bringing it into our living room. It's part of our life, whether you like it or not. But you gotta remember they're all different, and how we react is all different. So just going forward, look at their true PTSD moments. Dates. I will encourage you if you don't, there's a few things that I totally encourage everybody to do. And dates is probably the number one thing on my list. If you know your partner has a specific date, you don't have to know what it's about. Carl will tell me, I have a date coming up, or I have a date tomorrow. It goes in my calendar on a yearly reminder. Okay? The reason for that is when he gets in a place next year, things are going along great and we're having a great time and everything is perfect, and all of a sudden it's like this switch flips and you're like, what the hell did you just do? If you know they have a date, or you watch them cycle through a date, Sonny, that's a big thing. If you know that, I live by a date planner. I have to now, but and I also journal and write, and I know you do too. I literally will write in there, Carl's had a bad day today, or whatever, where it's not like just a relationship thing with us. You know he's somewhere else. And then I go back and I just kind of look at that so that I know going into next year that that time may happen again. And it is very helpful, because it's helpful for you to not put the pressure to do things on them. When they're having a date and they're in a space, they're going to distance. There's nothing you can do with that. They're going to distance. They're also going to trigger easier. The other big thing that we have, y'all, and this has been, I guess, the best year or the crappiest year, depends on how you wanna do it. I think there's been a lot of positive things that have come out of this year, but I'm not going there. But we talk about things that have happened. So we know the election and the events leading up to the election caused them issues. Well, first COVID did, and then as it progressed and got worse, it got worse for them. And then the election, yeah. And yeah, baby, dates, Danielle, dates, huge. The election got bad, so we kind of like, okay, look, y'all got to understand where we are. And now the election dropped right into the holiday, and for God's sakes, Georgia is recounting votes for the third time. So those of you who live in Georgia, God love us, we still can't count. I guess they're doing new math. I don't understand, but they can't count. So this is all going forward, and now as we go forward into this, we got the holidays, and they already, a lot of them feel guilty, or they feel like they've missed something, or they don't find the reason to celebrate based on what they've done. So we've had this big lull in crap. It's just like if somebody said, how do you describe the past month and a half, I would just do a whole line of poop emojis. Because it's what it's been. It's been like, because it's really cycle. Veterans Day is really hard, and Memorial Day is incredibly hard, but let me tell you the secret to why Veterans Day is really hard. Just note this, people, put this in your brain, file it in the back of your head. When they were in combat and they did something, took a life, their buddy died because of something, like an IED explosion or whatever, they were honored and rewarded, and somebody went up to them and slapped a medal on their chest and said, "You're a hero. You're a hero." And on Veterans Day, we celebrate our heroes. They're not a hero in their mind when somebody died on that day. Somebody died. When they had to give an order that somebody died because of. When they had to watch their buddy bleed out. So they're told they're heroes, because usually to get, especially Bronze Stars and whatever, they're told they're heroes. And they're not in their mind. So it's just something we keep thinking about. Memorial Day. Look, I grew up on the beach. I grew up at the lake. Memorial Day was great for us. It was a 3-day weekend. It was the beginning of our summer. When you live in a place where summer revolves, is a summer deal, you get excited about Memorial Day. Drinking, partying, cookouts. We did it. 3-day weekend. It was great. I watched Carl cry. Yeah, the day they died, and he was decorated. They do. See, we look at it as an honor. Somebody died for them to get that. Somebody died for them to get that. And we go up and we put a medal on them and say, "You're a hero." And then we don't teach them how to get out and deal with being a hero because somebody died. It's tough. And we do. We hear the "thank you for my service." And you struggle personally. Carl struggles. He's proud of what he did. He's proud of defending home. He's proud of that brotherhood that he's part of and sisterhood that he's part of. He's proud of that. But he's not proud of a lot of the other stuff. I've always loved this country, and I've always loved our military, and I still do. But when I watch what this country and this government does to our military, I am one pissed off cow. How dare you program them to do this? How dare you ask them to go do this? And then when their enlistment's up, you're going to pat them on the back and you're going to send them on their merry way? And you're not going to give them the tools to unprogram what the hell you program them with? I get pissed. But I love my veteran. And I love you people who help and love and support yours and don't leave their side either. Is it hard? Yeah. There's nothing about this journey that's easy. But there's nothing about life that's easy. But you love them so deeply, and sometimes we get so caught up in the PTSD and the struggles. Take a minute and sit back and remember why you fell in love. Remember why you fell in love. It is. But we feel, on the EMS side, we feel the same way. We feel when somebody comes up and says, "Thank you for what you've done," we feel the same way. Because usually they don't thank us for like the the kid with the stubbed toe, they thank us for a tragedy. And even if it's a bad outcome, they still thank us for being there for them. And it is very hard to accept sometimes. It's a job I loved. I loved it. And I know that I remember going back to 9/11 and the heroes, that the firefighters, and they had a hard time with this. The firefighters that were killed or injured in 9/11, and the first responders, they're like, we're not heroes. It was our job. That's what we chose to do. The hero was the guy from The Office who carried his buddy or the coworker down 70 flights of stairs. That's the hero. Their theory was, it was my job. It's what I signed up to do. So it is hard. It is hard being thanked for a job that you chose to do. All right, girls, ladies, gentlemen, whatever's on this little thing. Thank you for your time. Again, I hope this helped kind of understand where the difference and how we allow this to happen. Next week, we're going to talk about intimacy and the whole sex thing on Monday, and Tuesday and Wednesday we're going to talk about the VA and some of the issues. We have a lot going on. If you've not signed up, please do for the newsletter. I will have that out Sunday. Lots of stuff just kind of going on. I'm going to try to get things updated. Like I said, y'all, this has been amazing. I cannot do this without you. You guys do not know how many times you have saved me. When I didn't feel that I had a purpose anymore, and you guys saved me. And that's what we're about. We're a community who is here to lift each other up and support each other, and that's what the group is for. You know, when y'all need just somebody to tell you I love you, that's what we're here for. When you need somebody to tell you you're doing a good job, that's what we're here for. When you need somebody to tell you you got this, that's what we're here for. Y'all, please keep Natalie in your prayers. She has the COVID and she is struggling, so please keep her in your prayers. There's just so many that we have going on here. Y'all have a blessed day. I love you too, sister. I'm coming to Louisiana just so I can learn from you, because this woman is amazing. You talk about people being put in your place at the right time. Our past history and baggage is so mirrored a lot of each other, and this woman inspires me, and you have no idea, Sonny, how much you inspire me. So I love y'all. I will see you Monday. I'm sure we'll do some pop-ons at some point. Have a great weekend. If you need one-on-one time, call me or message me, and I can schedule some one-on-ones. I don't mind doing that. We got Friday. I've got a few things going on today, but I don't mind some one-on-ones if we need to fill them in the gap. Y'all have a blessed day, and I will see y'all on Monday.